All right, so today we're gonna be making a video on e-collar introduction. What's the proper way to do it? Is it right for your dog? There's a lot of stigma, a lot of controversy about e-collars, and I'm gonna be showing you guys exactly how we do it and showing you it's really not a bad thing and it gives your dog so much more freedom in your life. So watch through to the end because we're gonna be showing you and telling you all about it. So getting into the first question, what are e-collars? E-collars are a tool that we use to communicate very clearly with our dog, whatever it may be. Oftentimes it's recall, come back to me. And if we condition them properly, we can create a much safer environment for our dog to be free and run around and have more fun in their life, but also know we can always get them back to us. Right now, my dog's running around, she's free. If I ever need her back, Kona, heel. She'll run right into a heel. This is exactly what we want, and I know even if she sees something that's more important than what I have, I can always get her back. I don't care what treat you use. I don't care what you use to train your dog to come back to you. It is not 100% reliable if your dog sees something more important than what you have or your words. And so e-collars, all it is a tap on the shoulder. If we condition them properly with a dog, we'll show you how to do it. So we use e-collars and we don't use shock collars. There's a big difference between an e-collar and a shock collar, and I'm going to explain to you why. The device that we use with every dog is the Educator or the Mini Educator. Same deal, just different range. This is a Garmin unit. The Educator has 100 levels, 0 to 100. The Garmin has 10 levels, 1 through 10, right? I'm going to explain to you why that's not very good. First off, Educators, they're known to be reliable, they're durable, and they're very personalized. By personalized, here's what I mean. When we first introduce a dog to an e-collar using the Educator, usually their lowest level is somewhere between a 2 and a 6. The level that they just barely feel a little tap on the shoulder, just a little tingle with no distractions. For number's sake, let's just say it's a 5 on this dog that we're talking about. So our level's at a 5 on this dog. This is no distractions, 0 distraction environment. On the other unit, oftentimes Garmin, cheap Amazon ones, pretty much anything that's not an Educator, the lowest level you have is the equivalent of a 10 here, which is really just a 1, right? That is the lowest level that they have. That's already using way too much pressure than what the Educator is doing, right? We have to find, there's even a big difference between a 5 and a 6 and a 5 and a 7 on the Educator. You're doing a equivalent of a 10, it's too much pressure. Then once we have our dog properly conditioned indoors, no distractions, we let our dog free, right? Bigger environments, condition with higher distractions. And with a higher distraction, usually a dog is around twice what their lowest level was inside. So that would be about a 10 here, right? So that's our higher distraction, right? Pretty high distraction level. On here, you really only have the choice between a 1 and a 2, which is the equivalent of a 10 or a 20. And so what happens if there's just kind of a distractions right in the middle and you just need to give your dog a little tap on the shoulder with less distraction? We need to go to a 7. We don't have that personalization and that customization that we do with a unit like this. And so I highly discourage people get cheap units on Amazon, get the Educator, and you have so much more personalization and you can communicate with your dog very clearly on what we're doing. So now that you know what e-collar to use, we're going to discover, is an e-collar right for your dog and are you ready for it? In order for us to introduce an e-collar to our lovely furry friend, we need our furry friend to have perfect obedience. And so Bailey, she's really solid. Come. Good. Down. Place. Right? She knows all of these commands in mild to moderate distraction areas, and our dog needs to know that because in order to condition the e-collar, our dog needs to know what we're asking because that's how we condition the e-collar is with the obedience. And so if your dog doesn't have this level of obedience, in even slightly more distraction areas, your dog can't stay for 15 minutes at a time, your dog doesn't know the recall, sit down, stay, optional commands, your dog isn't right for an e-collar yet. You have to perfect that stuff before you introduce the e-collar. If your dog is like this and they have perfect obedience, you're all set and ready for an e-collar. All right, so your dog is right for an e-collar. Now, how do we introduce it? Well, I highly encourage you to do this the right way. We don't want to scare our dog into listening to us, and we don't want to hurt our dog. First, when we're outside and we have our dog on a prong collar or a slip lead, which we use often, and we give them a correction, it's a correction with direction, right? We're telling the dog, hey, right, this is what you should do. We're directing them. When we use the e-collar, it's correction more like pressure with no direction. Right? A dog doesn't know it's us communicating with them at first, and there's no direction. So we need to be very clear with what we're telling our dog to do. We bring our dog into a distraction-free environment and we find their lowest level. By that, we start at level 1, 2, 3, give them a little tap. And the second the dog almost acts like there's an ant on them, they might shake a little bit, they might itch at it a little bit, they might, right, just kind of look or perk their ears up, where it's almost as if there's an ant on them. That's their lowest level, they feel it. They just feel a little bit of pressure. Once a dog has that, we then tell our dog to stay on their place board and we recall them from a couple feet, right? Hey, Domino, come. Tell him to come, we hold pressure, he gets here, sits, and release pressure. We then send him back to his place board. Hold pressure, second he's on his place board, we release. We do this for often a couple training sessions until a dog really understands this is us communicating with them. And then what we do is we bring in the other commands, basic obedience, right? We tell a dog to sit, hold a little bit of pressure, same amount of pressure. They sit, we release it. Down, same deal, and we repeat that. Once a dog has that down, our command should be sped up if they were slow in the first place. And our dog knows it's us communicating with them. So we then start to add distractions slowly as we go. It's a long process, generally takes at least a week or two. You know, here, when we're working with dogs for a couple hours a day, it takes somewhere between a week and two. If you're only working with your dog for 20 minutes a day, it's gonna take a good bit longer, but don't rush the process. It's really important to not mess this up. Once it's conditioned, our dog fully understands it's us communicating with them. We can give our dog more freedom. So now that we've properly introduced our dog to an e-collar, now what does it look like? Well, we're getting into some more advanced e-collar training with Bailey here. She knows that this is us communicating and we're allowing her to be free. And all we're doing is practicing. Yes! Right, that didn't hurt her. All it did was give her a tap on the shoulder. She came to me and she gets paid, right? And so this now turns into whether we give a verbal recall command or just a tap on the shoulder. If she sees a squirrel or something across the street and she wants to run, we now have this conditioning and obedience where this is our leash that we have. And so we have her on a retractable leash because we're still working with her. But after this training, Bailey will be able to be off leash. And her owners can know they can always recall her no matter what place, no matter what condition. She can have a lot more freedom. As we've talked about, she can live a much happier life, right? Bailey, come. No pressure. Sit. Because the communication is very clear. We're not going to pay her. That was a little weak. You're free. But we can get her back. I can use my words. I can use the e-collar. And I can also use both. Bailey, come. Yes. Right? This is exactly what we want. Once we continue and finish conditioning Bailey on this e-collar, she's going to be a fully off-leash dog and have so much more freedom. And so if you think this is aversive or inhumane, well, I think your dog pulling on a leash, having no freedom in their life is a lot more aversive and inhumane for your dog than creating a safe environment for them to run around and have fun and be free. So you now have all the tools you need to properly condition and introduce your dog to an e-collar. Don't let anyone tell you they're aversive, abusive, inhumane, because as you see, they are not, and they allow your dog to have so much more freedom. If you have any questions on this, feel free to leave me a comment below. We have a new camera setup. Hope you guys like it. Video quality is A1. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.